The marble floors of the sterling Grand Hotel gleamed beneath the crystal chandeliers, reflecting the splendor of the gilded walls and concealing stories of power, vanity, and betrayal. Marcus Caldwell, the impeccably dressed manager in his tailored suit, believed a person's worth lay in their bank balance and the brand of watch they wore. When he saw a simple, serene black woman approach the reception desk with a small leather bag, he decided to show everyone that he was the one in charge there. With a cold smile and a voice laden with contempt, Marcus mocked the visitor in front of the wealthy guests, turning her humiliation into a spectacle. The laughter of the spectators echoed like applause for his arrogance. And when he, in a thoughtless gesture, slapped the woman to put her in her place, the silence that filled the lobby was sepulchral. What he didn't know was that Diana Hartwell wasn't just any guest. She was the billionaire founder and owner of the Hartwell Hospitality Group, the empire responsible for every luxurious detail of that hotel, including Marcus's own salary. At that moment, under the same chandeliers that reflected his vanity, the manager realized he had just humiliated the woman who could decide the fate of his entire career. And nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same again. Before we continue this story, please comment on which city or country you are watching from, and if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. This is just the first twist in a story that will surprise you. The marble floors of the sterling Grand Hotel in the heart of Chicago gleamed under the crystal chandeliers, just as they had on countless nights when Diana Hartwell had polished them with her own hands. 16 years of work and memories lived in every corner of that lobby. She adjusted her discreet beige overcoat, feeling the weight of those early mornings when silence was her only companion. As she made her way through the reception area, she watched the guests in suits and designer dresses hurrying about, their Louis Vuitton suitcases gliding across the floor she herself had learned to make shine. Diana kept her head held high, though her heart raced. The reception area, with its imposing mahogany wall and judgmental air, seemed to stare back at her. "May I speak to management, please?" she asked, her voice calm and firm. On the other side of the counter, Marcus Caldwell, the manager in the crisp suit and calculating gaze, looked up from his computer screen. A slow, disdainful smile spread across his face. "Management?" he repeated ironically. "The employment office is back there by the service entrance." He pointed with his chin towards the kitchen. "But I must warn you that we have certain standards here." An elegant couple checking in next door turned to observe. Diana felt their gazes weigh on her, but maintained her composure. "I'm not here for a job," he replied calmly. "I need to speak with management about a business matter." Marcus's laughter cut through the air like a razor blade. "A business matter," he repeated in a theatrical tone, loud enough for everyone to hear. "In that outfit." He sized her up. "That coat looks like it's from a thrift store. And those shoes, not even our maids would wear something so worn out." Heat rose to Diana's neck, but her face remained serene. She knew this game. She had seen it unfold countless times from behind a cleaning cart. The glint in the manager's eyes betrayed that this was a spectacle, a chance to assert himself by humiliating those he considered inferior. "Judging by the way you dress," Marcus continued with a venomous smile, "you look more suited to cleaning rooms than to conducting business." The guests' quiet laughter echoed like a chorus of cowardice. A bellboy looked away, gripping the luggage cart tightly. Diana recognized that gesture, the gesture of powerlessness in the face of injustice. "My appearance," she replied firmly, "has nothing to do with why I'm here." He leaned forward, his eyebrows arched. "Oh yes, there is. Everything about you screams wrong side of town. The cheap clothes, that simple makeup, even the way you walk. Here we receive people of a different standard, of a different level." The words hung in the air like poison. Diana let them fall onto her skin without reacting. They were old acquaintances, the same ones she'd heard whispered while changing sheets, cleaning windows and scrubbing bathrooms. But this time, something was different. She wasn't in uniform. She wasn't there to clean. "Quality," he said softly, "is more than just appearance, Mr. Caldwell. It's about character." His face flushed. "Security!" he shouted furiously. "Get that woman out of here immediately. She's disturbing the peace." Two security guards approached. She recognized one of them, Trevor. He had shared coffee with her during the night shifts. Now he avoided her gaze. "Madam, please," he said, his voice breaking. Diana took a deep breath. She stepped back, maintaining her dignity. Her gaze swept across the lobby, the floors she knew better than anyone, the metal she had polished with dedication, the details that had shaped her life. Then he faced Marcus Caldwell. "This will not be the last time you see me here." His words echoed in the lobby like an omen. She turned and walked towards the exit, each step firm on the same marble that had once been the reflection of her invisibility. Behind her, Marcus's laughter reverberated beneath the chandeliers. "Don't forget the service entrance next time, it's your seat." The following morning, sunlight streamed through the windows of the Sterling Grand, scattering golden reflections across the gleaming floor. Diana Hartwell was there again, standing before the executive elevator, shoulders straight, a leather briefcase under her arm, and this time she hadn't come as an employee. The morning rush filled the lobby of the Sterling Grand Hotel in Chicago with hurried executives and luxury tourists. Voices mingled in a constant echo of footsteps, suitcases, and business conversations. The marble floor reflected the frenetic movement of dark suits and expensive dresses. Diana Hartwell waited silently before the executive elevator, clutching a leather briefcase. As she reached out to press the button, a familiar voice pierced the air, cold and sharp as broken glass. "What do you think you're doing here?" The sound of Marcus Caldwell's shoes echoed through the lobby. The manager strode forward, his face tense, his posture rigid, and with the same arrogant look as the previous night. "You had the audacity to come back?" he asked, his voice thick with irony. Diana turned slowly, serene. "I have a meeting scheduled on the executive floor." Marcus laughed, loud enough to attract the attention of nearby guests. "A meeting?" he repeated mockingly. "Don't make me laugh. Security!" He snapped his fingers. Two security guards began to approach, hesitantly. Behind the reception desk, Jessica Porter, the young intern, watched the scene with wide eyes. Trembling, she picked up her cell phone and discreetly positioned it, her thumb hovering over the record button. "I'm not trespassing," Diana stated firmly. "You can check the visitor's book. My name is there." Marcus's smile turned into something darker. "Do you really think anyone would believe that?" He stepped forward. "Just look at you, standing in this lobby like you own the place." His voice lowered to a venomous tone. "Women like you clean rooms. They don't attend meetings." A heavy silence fell. Several guests stopped to watch. A businessman lowered his newspaper. A mother pulled her children closer. Jessica's breathing trembled, but she continued filming. "Mr. Caldwell," Diana said calmly but firmly, "take a step back. You're overstepping your bounds." "Going too far?" Marcus laughed loudly, theatrically. "You're the one pretending to be someone you're not." He looked her up and down, his eyes filled with contempt. "That cheap coat, that posture of someone trying to appear powerful. Who are you trying to fool?" Jessica registered every word, every gesture. Marcus's tone grew hotter, more inflamed. "I've worked in hotels for 20 years. I know your type well, people who think they can hide who they really are." Diana kept her gaze fixed on him. "And what exactly am I, Mr. Caldwell?" He smiled cruelly, smirking sideways. "A nobody trying to be somebody, a cleaning lady who forgot her place. Murmurs spread among the guests. The security guards exchanged uncomfortable glances but didn't move. The air was heavy, thick, on the verge of bursting. "I'm not going to ask again," Diana said, her voice firm, low, and authoritative. "Let me go to the meeting." Her calmness seemed to ignite Marcus's pride. His face flushed, his breathing quickened. "How dare you speak to me like that?" The slap came sharply, cutting through the air. The sound echoed off the marble walls like thunder. Diana's face twisted from the impact, her cheek burning. The leather folder fell, scattering the papers across the floor. Behind the counter, Jessica's hands trembled, but she didn't stop recording. An elderly woman put her hand to her chest. A child cried, and for a moment, no one breathed. "Get that woman out of here!" Marcus shouted, breathless. "Now!" The security guards stepped forward reluctantly. Trevor, one of them, hesitated as he grabbed Diana's arm. "Please, don't complicate things," he murmured, his voice choked with emotion. Diana kept her gaze fixed on the manager. "Take your hands off me," he ordered firmly. "I haven't done anything wrong." "Nothing wrong?" Marcus's laugh sounded hysterical. "She's trespassing, disturbing the guests, and pretending to be a businesswoman." He bent down and picked up one of the fallen papers. "What is this? Fake documents?" "These are confidential business documents," Diana replied, her voice steady even under the weight of humiliation. Marcus laughed and tore the paper in half, letting the pieces fall onto the polished floor. "Business documents, of course. I bet you printed them at a public library." That was the last straw. Diana lifted her face, still marked by the slap, but with firm and calm eyes. "That was your last mistake, Mr. Caldwell. The guards held her by the arms, but she didn't resist. She just walked with her head held high. The crowd parted, creating a corridor of silence and shame. No one spoke. No one helped. The sound of her heels and footsteps echoed off the marble as she was led toward the service entrance, the same path she had taken so many times in the past. Behind the counter, Jessica was still holding her cell phone. On the screen, the video showed everything: the slap, the insults, the torn papers, the abuse. She stopped recording and stared at her own reflection on the screen, knowing that this video would change everything, forever. Jessica Porter's finger hovered over the share button. With a quick glance to make sure no one was watching, she clicked send. The caption seemed to write itself. She just tried to go up the stairs. They didn't know who she was. The video began to process. The progress bar slowly climbed on the phone screen, illuminating his nervous face behind the counter. In the kitchen, the clatter of pots and voices mingled with the sound of hurried footsteps as Diana Hartwell was led through the back hallways, the same ones she had cleaned for over a decade. Upstairs, in the director's offices, a meeting room remained empty. The chairs lined up, waiting for a guest who never arrived. Hours later, the glow of the laptop screen illuminated Diana's face in her Chicago apartment. Outside, the city lights twinkled like a distant reflection of the growing chaos on social media. But her attention was fixed on the video, played for the 100th time. Snap. The sound of the slap still echoed in her mind. Even now, her hand touched the cheek where Marcus Caldwell had hit her. In the recording, she saw herself stumbling, picking up the papers that had scattered across the marble. The video was shaky but clear, captured by the trembling hands of a young woman who knew the weight of what she was filming. The cell phone next to him vibrated incessantly. Notifications, messages, mentions. In minutes, the video had gone viral. The justice for Diana was among the most talked about topics in the country. On TV, the voice of an NBC News reporter broke the silence. Graphic images recorded at the Sterling Grand Hotel show what appears to be an act of discrimination and aggression committed by the hotel manager. The images were shown again, now to millions of viewers. Comments multiplied below the original post. "That's disgusting." Who does this manager think he is? I'm never setting foot in that hotel again. This woman is a queen. She maintained her dignity until the end. Diana scrolled through the comments slowly, her face serene, her eyes impassive. A new notification appeared at the top of the screen. Dr. Patterson, attorney. It's on every channel. Their PR department panicked. Do you want me to proceed? She typed slowly. Not yet. Let the panic build. Opened a new tab. Hartwell Hospitality Group faces crisis after assault video goes viral. Below is an official statement. We are aware of the incident and are conducting an internal investigation. Hartwell Hospitality Group does not tolerate discrimination or violence of any kind. The phone rang. It was the Justice Forward Institute proposing a demonstration. She let it go to voicemail. It wasn't the right time yet. New videos began circulating on social media. Protesters outside the hotel, holding signs high in the wind. Boycott the Sterling Grand. Marcus Caldwell must be dismissed immediately. The crowd grew larger by the hour. Internet users had identified the manager within minutes. Photos of Marcus Caldwell flooded timelines, along with his professional profile, history, and old videos. Inside the hotel, another leaked video, recorded by an employee, showed Marcus in his office, pacing back and forth while talking on the phone. I did the right thing. His voice was tense, captured by the camera's microphone. That woman tried to go up to the director's office. What was I supposed to do? Let her steal something? Marcus, this went really badly, said Stephanie Reeves, his assistant, in a distressed tone. People are recording a protest at the door. A protest? He laughed sarcastically. I protected our image. Our guests don't pay a daily rate to share the lobby with that kind of people. The recording ended with him throwing the phone onto the table. The following hours turned into a whirlwind. Employees gave anonymous testimonies confirming the abusive behavior. Former employees shared similar stories of humiliation. In less than 12 hours, a petition hosted on the Change.org platform surpassed 500,000 signatures demanding his dismissal. Diana's email was exploding with messages, journalists wanting interviews, activists offering support, lawyers proposing class action lawsuits. She ignored them all. Then, a new notification flashed on the screen. A short video. Marcus Caldwell being escorted to his car, surrounded by protesters. Signs waved, flashes went off. Shame! They shouted in unison. In the recording, he looked smaller, his suit disheveled, his gaze lost. That confident man from the lobby had vanished. The clock in the corner of the monitor showed almost midnight. On the other monitor, a headline flashed in red. Hartwell Hospitality Group shares plunge 12% after viral scandal. On another tab, a flood of reservation cancellations was piling up. Celebrities and influencers were declaring a boycott of the brand. Diana Hartwell leaned back in her chair. The reflection of the screens flickered in her eyes. Nothing in her expression revealed euphoria. Only absolute silence, because finally the world was seeing what she had always known. Some truths don't need to be shouted. Just let everyone witness them. Travel websites displayed warnings about the Hartwell Hospitality Group. Headlines flashed across screens. Luxury hotel chain collapses after viral assault video. Diana Hartwell's phone vibrated once more. Another alert. This time, an exclusive interview. A former chambermaid at the Sterling Grand Hotel, her voice choked with emotion, tearfully described years of mistreatment and humiliation. What happened in that video is what has always happened to us. That's how they see us. That's how they've always seen us. The words echoed deeply within Diana. Memories returned in vivid fragments, tired feet, cold nights, invisibility, the arrogance of those who treated her like furniture. How many times had she swallowed the same kind of contempt? How many other women still did it? A new email appeared on the screen, marked as urgent. The sender, Board of Directors, Sterling Grand Hotel. She didn't open it, not yet. Instead, he pressed play on the original video again. He watched his own image, the fall, the scattered papers, the slap that echoed like a sentence, but also the upright posture, the unwavering gaze. He heard his own calm voice once more at the end. That was his last mistake. The video ended. The comments, however, continued to multiply. Hundreds, thousands, millions. Outside, Chicago vibrated with nightlife, oblivious to the fact that inside that silent apartment, something enormous was about to happen. Diana slowly closed her laptop. The screen went dark, reflecting her motionless face. The only sound was her own breathing. Everything was in motion now. Years of planning, decades of silence. The gears were finally turning. She stood and walked to the window. The imposing silhouette of the Sterling Grand was silhouetted against the sky, its windows gleaming like jewels. Diana watched for a long moment, until her lips moved in an almost inaudible whisper. Now, I'll begin. The next scene, board meeting room. The tension was palpable. On the 40th floor of the Sterling Grand Hotel, the cold light from the emergency panels cast harsh shadows on the faces of the assembled executives. Outside, the shouts of the protesters echoed through the windows. "Our shares have fallen another 8% since the market opened," said Lauren Mitchell, CFO, swiping her finger across a tablet covered in red charts. "Investors are pulling capital out en masse." Gregory Caldwell, the chairman of the board and father of the manager involved in the scandal, slammed his fist on the mahogany table. "This is mass hysteria. Since when do social media platforms dictate our decisions?" Warren Hayes, the head of public relations, replied in a hoarse voice. "Since that video got 50 million views in less than 24 hours. The deep, dark circles under her eyes betrayed a sleepless night. All the major news outlets are covering the case. Influencers, artists, politicians. We've already lost 3 international conventions, Warren added. The door flung open. Ethan Clark, an IT technician, burst in, pale and clutching a laptop like it was an explosive device. "Mr. Caldwell, we have a problem with the Apex system." "Not now, Ethan," Gregory interrupted, irritated. "We're dealing with a real crisis." "That's exactly it, sir." The young man's voice wavered. "The system stopped." Silence. A silence so dense that it was possible to hear the protests from outside. "It stopped? What do you mean it stopped?" Lauren asked, frowning. "Everything is falling apart, not just here. Reservations are disappearing. The electronic doors won't open. The billing system is frozen. None of the systems are responding. It's like someone shut down the entire network." Gregory Caldwell's face paled. "Contact the development team. Fix this immediately." "We tried," Ethan replied, his voice breaking. "No one can access the master code. We're completely blocked." Phones began vibrating simultaneously around the table. Executives answered in a panic. "London has fallen too. Miami is inaccessible. San Francisco has come to a standstill." Inside the hotel, chaos reigned. Guests demanded answers, key cards malfunctioned, and digital panels that had previously displayed gala events now showed only error in system. In the lobby, Marcus Caldwell, the same man who had humiliated Diana, paced back and forth, his expensive shoes clicking against the marble. "Try again," he shouted to an exhausted employee. "The system is not responding, sir. Then do it manually. Use forms." The receptionist swallowed hard. "We don't have paper forms, sir. Everything has been digitized." The shouting grew louder. The lobby became a mass of furious voices. On the rooftop, the meeting degenerated into despair. "Without Apex, we're just a building with beds," Lauren murmured, pressing her hands to her forehead. "We can't process payments, open doors, or manage guests." Ethan's cell phone vibrated again. He looked at the screen, paled, and picked up the device. "Sir, the development team found something in the source code." "What?" asked Gregory Caldwell, standing up. Ethan turned his phone screen so everyone could see. In the center of the screen, in white letters on a black background, a single message flashed. "Apex belongs to whoever created it. DH." For a moment, nobody moved. Then, Lauren Mitchell's gaze met Gregory Caldwell's. "DH," she murmured. "Diana Hartwell." The silence turned into panic. Outside, cries of protest rose in unison while high above the city, the lights of the Sterling Grand Hotel began to flicker, one by one, before going out completely. And for the first time in its entire history, the Caldwell Empire plunged into darkness. Hidden within the lines of the Apex system, an encrypted digital signature finally became visible. In the center of the screen flashed the cold, precise, technical inscription, "Original System Architecture, DH." Gregory Caldwell frowned, his expression thick with disbelief. "Who the hell is DH?" he asked, leaning over the monitor. Warren Hayes, the head of public relations, stood motionless. "Oh my God," he murmured. "The woman in the video, the one Marcus—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Lauren Mitchell opened the viral video on her tablet and froze the image on Diana Hartwell's face. Silence filled the room. "Someone needs to find out who she is, now." Gregory's voice sounded hoarse but authoritative. But before anyone could answer, the monitors around the table simultaneously went black. Then a new text appeared on screens throughout the building. "Access denied." In the lobby, the chaos intensified. Guests left the Sterling Grand Hotel dragging suitcases, demanding refunds, filming everything with their cell phones. The sound of angry voices and luggage wheels scraping the marble echoed under the unlit chandeliers. Social media exploded with new hashtags: "Chaos at Sterling Grand," "System Collapse," "Justice for Diana." CNN crews arrived at the scene, broadcasting live from the sidewalk. In a surprising development, the reporter said, the luxury hotel chain, already shaken by the assault video released yesterday, is now facing an unprecedented technical failure. Sources say the internal system, which controls reservations and security, has collapsed in all of the group's units. Inside the hotel, Marcus Caldwell watched helplessly as the empire crumbled. The lobby, once a symbol of luxury and order, was now pure chaos. Without the system, the staff no longer knew where to allocate guests. They lost reservations, they mixed up orders. The premium experience had simply vanished. "How could this have happened?" he asked, his voice trembling, more to himself than to the others. "We had the best system in the industry." Behind the counter, Margaret Davis, a former housekeeper with grey hair, murmured something almost inaudible. "What did you say?" Marcus asked, annoyed. She stared at him without fear. "I said that perhaps you should have asked who built this system." Miles away, in the silence of her modest apartment, Diana Hartwell watched everything from her favorite armchair. In front of her, 3 screens broadcast simultaneously. In the first segment, financial analysts discussed the 20% drop in the group's shares. On Monday, cameras showed guests leaving the hotel amidst boos and flashes of light. In the third image, the graph plummeted in real time. The ruin of an empire. She held a cup of tea, the steam rising like a calm offering to justice. The phone vibrated, a new message from the board of directors. "We need to talk, urgently. We've found out your initials." Diana put the phone aside without answering. I would let the despair mature a little more. They needed to experience the taste of powerlessness, of invisibility, the same feelings she had lived with for years. The Apex system was much more than just software. It was his vision of hospitality, Humane, fair, dignified. They had stolen this creation, erased her name, and profited from the sweat of people like her. Now, at last, they knew the face behind the woman they had despised, the chambermaid, the invisible one, the architect of everything. On the upper floors of the Sterling Grand, Gregory Caldwell faced reporters with a pale face and a loose tie. "We are working to resolve this technical problem," he said, trying to sound firm in front of the cameras. But deep down, he knew the empire was crumbling. Back in her armchair, Diana took a last sip of tea and whispered, "Now they'll remember." Next scene. Meeting room. War room laptops covered the table, their screens displaying the same paralyzing message: access denied. Groups of technicians spoke in hushed voices, gesturing desperately. "Try another password," Gregory Caldwell ordered, loosening his jacket and wiping the sweat from his temples. A young IT analyst shook her head. "Sir, we've tried all access routes. The system isn't just blocked. It's responding. Someone is controlling it in real time." Lauren Mitchell's phone vibrated with new notifications. London lost all bookings for an international event. Miami had 60% of its bookings cancelled early. And San Francisco is temporarily closing its doors. Warren Hayes stood up abruptly. "That's impossible. We own the software outright." The young programmer Nathan Brooks cleared his throat nervously. "Sir, perhaps not exactly." He connected his laptop to the projector. Documents and archived files appeared on the wall. "I investigated the origins of Apex. The basic structure wasn't created internally. It was purchased 5 years ago from a startup called Lumina Systems." "Lumina?" Lauren repeated, confused. "I've never heard of her." That's right. The company didn't have a physical headquarters, nor any registered employees. But the software was revolutionary. It learned guest preferences, optimized team routines, and anticipated demands. "And who owned this Lumina?" Gregory asked, his voice sharp. Nathan scrolled to the bottom of the incorporation document. In the founder field, DH, Diana Hartwell. The blood drained from everyone's face. Warren Hayes slumped into his chair. "She was here the whole time." Lauren ran her hand over her forehead. "She built everything, and we stole it from her." Outside, the sound of sirens and cameras grew louder. Inside, the Caldwell empire crumbled, not through brute force, but through intelligence, patience, and justice. High atop the building, the lights of the Sterling Grand Hotel began to flicker again, one by one, until only one message shone on the digital screens on the facade. "Hospitality belongs to those who understand what it means to be invisible." Embrace DH, and in that instant, Diana Hartwell became the name that the whole world would learn to respect. Marcus Caldwell burst into the Sterling Grand Hotel's meeting room, his breath quickening, his suit disheveled, despair etched on his face. "Did you see the X? We're trending worldwide." The sound of notifications echoed across the screens. Warren Hayes, the head of public relations, opened his laptop and paled. The video of the slap became a meme. Thousands of versions. People remixing it with soundtracks, reactions, subtitles, and now guests are posting videos of the chaos in the chain's hotels. Lauren Mitchell held up her phone, her voice tense. "Look at this." On the screen, a recently published article from TechCrunch appeared in large letters: "The truth behind the greatest innovation in luxury hospitality. How a cleaning lady revolutionized the industry." Below the headline, a photo. Diana Hartwell in a dark suit, in front of a wall covered with patents and innovation awards. She wasn't the humiliated woman in the lobby. She was a firm, proud, confident executive. Gregory Caldwell's face lost its color. Lauren read aloud, breathing heavily. For years, the most sophisticated management system in the hotel industry was attributed to large corporations. Today, its true creator comes forward. Diana Hartwell, a former housekeeper and self-taught technology expert, worked for 16 years cleaning rooms while raising her daughter alone. In the early hours of the morning, she learned programming and developed software capable of transforming the way the luxury sector operates. The silence was absolute. On the screen in the corner, security footage showed the slap. Marcus Caldwell's face distorted by hatred, the shocked crowd. "That's impossible," Marcus murmured hoarsely. "She was nobody." Nathan Brooks, the programmer, looked at him almost with pity. "No one who writes code like that is nobody. The system is brilliant. It combines human behavior and operational logic in a way I've never seen before. It's more than software, it's sensitivity, it's vision." More alerts kept popping up on the screens. Forbes, the Wall Street Journal, CNN, they were all reporting the same thing. The invisible genius behind modern luxury. How hotels stole a chambermaid's innovation. The woman who changed world hospitality. On social media, new hashtags dominated the top trends. Justice for Diana, the invisible, who changed everything, and not a nobody. A collective cry against inequality and corporate arrogance. A notification appeared on the screens in the room. Exclusive interview, CNN, live. The council members stood motionless. The image appeared on the screen. Diana Hartwell was seated at a simple yet elegant table. The background displayed awards, books, and an open window overlooking the sunset. His gaze was serene, his tone unwavering. The journalist in front of him leaned forward anxiously. "Ms. Hartwell, they call you the hidden architect of modern hospitality. Why reveal yourself now?" She smiled calmly, her hands intertwined. "Because innovation isn't born only in meeting rooms. It's born in people who understand the work at all levels. People who sweep hallways, who make beds, who serve coffee, and yet still have ideas to improve the world around them." She paused briefly. "I spent 16 years in that hotel, working the night shift, programming in silence, observing what worked and what didn't. When I presented my project, they laughed at me. They called my ideas impractical, and when they discovered the system's potential, they simply took everything. They stole my code, erased my name, and fired me." A slight smile curved her lips, but they never understood that the true creator always keeps a master key. Lauren Mitchell took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. On screen, Diana maintained the same, almost poetic tranquility. "Today, I want to speak to everyone who has ever been treated as invisible. To every chambermaid, janitor, cook, receptionist who has heard that they don't belong. Excellence doesn't depend on surnames, titles, or expensive suits. Innovation can be born anywhere." She looked directly at the camera and seemed to be looking through the walls of the Sterling Grand. "Sometimes the person you humiliate today is the owner of your company tomorrow." A sepulchral silence filled the room. The phones started ringing in quick succession, investors demanding explanations, partners announcing the termination of contracts, stocks are plummeting once again. Marcus Caldwell slumped in his chair, pale. "She is destroying us." Lauren stood up slowly. "No, Marcus, we did it ourselves. We stole from her. We humiliated her in front of the cameras, and now the whole world knows." On screen, Diana Hartwell was finishing her interview. The number of followers was increasing every second. Newspapers, influencers, and executives shared his words. The maid who built an empire. The woman who redefined the meaning of luxury. The revolution begins where respect ends. The hashtag, not a nobody, dominated all social networks. Hotel employees around the world have begun posting their own accounts, stories of abuse, harassment, and invisibility. The Sterling Grand brand, once synonymous with sophistication, was now a symbol of shame. And in the CNN studio, Diana Hartwell remained serene, her gaze distant. When the journalist asked, "How does someone go from being a cleaning lady to revolutionizing an entire industry?" she took a deep breath, as if reliving an entire life in an instant. "Sometimes you have to be pushed to the ground to learn how to build something so tall that no one can erase your name." The image dissolved smoothly into a distant past. 15 years ago. A much younger Diana Hartwell was sitting inside a battered Honda Civic, parked behind a Walmart supermarket on the outskirts of Chicago. In the back seat, their 4-year-old daughter Maya slept soundly under a faded blanket. That car had been their home for 3 months. "We live here," Diana recounted in the interview. "I would wake up before dawn, shower in gas station bathrooms, and leave Maya with a neighbor who looked after her for a symbolic fee. Then I would take the 6 o'clock bus to get to the hotel before 7. The scene changed. Narrow, stuffy corridors, the smell of disinfectant, and the echoing sound of vacuum cleaners. Young Diana was pushing a heavy cleaning cart, her uniform clinging to her body with sweat, even in the early hours of the morning. "Faster!" shouted Helen Foster, the supervisor, holding a clipboard. "Fair guests don't wait. 16 rooms today and no excuses." Diana's voice in the present remained calm. "It was exhausting work, but it was there that I learned everything about how a hotel really works. The flaws, the contradictions, what management said happened, and what actually happened." Another cut. The lounge at the Sterling Grand Hotel at midnight. Diana, exhausted, sat among yellowed textbooks, hotel management, business administration, introduction to programming. Her daughter was sleeping makeshiftly on 2 chairs, covered with her mother's apron. "I didn't have money for college," she continued, "so I learned on my own. The Chicago Public Library had free computers. YouTube was my teacher. I took every course I could find." The journalist nodded. "And how did you manage to develop such a complex system while working so hard?" She smiled slightly. "One problem at a time. Every night I thought of a way to solve what I saw during the day. Wrong assignments, wasted time, failures between departments. The system was born from these pain points. The memories flowed like vivid scenes. Diana, sitting on the laundry room floor, scribbling diagrams on the back of the cleaning schedules, testing simple algorithms on a used laptop, observing guests, mapping behavioral patterns, noting preferences and quirks that management never noticed. "The key," he explained, "was understanding that luxury isn't about the price of the pillow. It's about anticipation, knowing what the guest needs even before they ask. And that's something only those who are invisible truly learn." The scene changed. Diana, dressed in her best thrift store suit, nervously entered the manager's office, laptop in hand, heart racing. "I can increase efficiency by 40%, she said excitedly. "The system learns from guest behavior and anticipates needs in real time." Helen Foster, the supervisor, didn't even let him finish. "Diana, you're a chambermaid. A chambermaid doesn't propose innovation. Stick to your job." The sparkle in Diana's eyes faded, but only for a moment. His voice has hardened in the present. 2 months later, they announced the new revolutionary system. It was my project. They just changed the name and removed mine. When I questioned it, I was fired for creating a hostile work environment. The journalist's eyes widened. "And what did you do?" "I started over," she replied without hesitation. "I created Lumina Systems as a front. I improved the system, made it unbeatable, and put it on the market. The same hotels that scorned me started competing to buy it, including the Sterling Grand." The following scenes showed Diana in her small apartment, the blue glow of the monitor illuminating her tired face. Next to her, Maya, already 10 years old, was doing her homework, delivering coffee to her mother. "My daughter watched me build all of this," she said with a discreet smile. She learned that dignity isn't inherited. It's built line by line, code by code. The images showed a sequence of silent victories. Diana registering patents, discreet meetings with investors, signing international contracts, and finally, the first installation of the Apex system, with executives celebrating the innovation without imagining who had created it. The system became popular because it worked, he explained. It was simple, humane, efficient. He understood hotels from the ground up, from the cleaning cart to the presidential suite. Nothing was theoretical. Everything came from the experience of those who actually bore the brunt of the work. The interviewer pointed to the tablet, where headlines about the network collapse appeared in real time. And now their entire operation depends on your system. Ironic, isn't it? Diana smiled serenely. They never imagined that the person they fired was the very one who sustained their empire. The last memories passed by in quick succession. Diana was discreetly buying shares in the group through third parties, participating in shareholder meetings as an anonymous shareholder. Sitting in the last row, she watched her former superiors praise the brilliance of the new system, unaware that the invisible woman was right there, patiently observing justice take shape. The journalist leaned forward. "Do you feel vengeful?" She took a deep breath, her eyes calm and steady. "No, I feel justice. Revenge destroys. Justice rebuilds." The final shot showed Diana and Maya, now an adult, walking along the shore of Lake Michigan. The water reflected the sunset, and the wind blew gently. Mother and daughter side by side, smiling silently. Because in the end, the woman who once cleaned the rooms at the Sterling Grand had become the owner of the entire horizon she saw through the window. "I could have come out years ago," Diana Hartwell admitted, looking directly at the camera. "But I wanted to prove something bigger, that excellence can come from anywhere, that the people you ignore might be quietly changing your world." The CNN journalist leaned slightly forward. "Why didn't you reveal yourself sooner?" Her silence was brief, but laden with decades of invisibility. "Because they never looked at me long enough to see what I could be." Her voice was serene, yet firm. "They saw a uniform, not a visionary. A servant, not a creator. Their blindness was my advantage. The freedom to build something revolutionary without them realizing it." The interview, broadcast live, triggered an immediate chain reaction. Within hours, Diana Hartwell's legal team called a press conference at the Pinnacle Tower Hotel, directly across from the Sterling Grand Hotel, the epicenter of the scandal. Cameras, journalists, and curious onlookers crowded the conference room. The buzz subsided when Diana ascended the podium. She wore a sober suit, her hair pulled back, and her posture impeccable. Her serenity contrasted sharply with the chaos seething across the street. "Today, I'm not just here to tell my story," he began, his voice projecting firmly. "I'm here to expose a systematic theft of intellectual property that extends to the highest echelons of the national hotel industry." The room fell silent. The flashes stopped. Diana opened a leather folder and took out a set of documents. "In 2008, when I was working as a chambermaid at the Sterling Grand Hotel, I developed a revolutionary guest management system. I believed in the integrity of the administration and officially presented my proposal." She paused. "That confidence was my mistake." Across the street, high on the 40th floor, the Caldwell Group's board of directors watched the broadcast. Gregory Caldwell, chairman of the board, loosened his tie and ran a hand over his face. Behind him, his son, Marcus, stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the screen. Diana held up the first document in front of the cameras. "This is my original proposal, recorded and sent via corporate email with date and time." She pressed a button on the remote control. "And here's the internal memo from 2 weeks after my presentation." On the screen behind her, The projected email address contained the name Gregory Caldwell. That's exactly what we need. Remove her name and resubmit it to my division. Human Resources will handle the dismissal. A murmur ran through the press room. Reporters were typing frantically. Mr. Caldwell made a serious mistake, Diana continued calmly. He didn't understand the code well enough to modify it. On the screen, two code windows appeared side by side. On one side, Apex, the group's current system. On the other, the original prototype. The basic architecture is identical, she explained. Each line bears my digital signature, my mathematical fingerprints, registered with the USPTO months before its implementation. In the meeting, Lauren Mitchell and Warren Hayes exchanged uneasy glances. Gregory's face paled. Marcus stood up suddenly, his voice hoarse. "Dad, this can't be true." But it was. "The evidence doesn't stop there," Diana continued, pulling out a second folder. "Here are the certified copies of the project, with personal notes on guest behavior and team logistics, reproduced word for word in the group's manuals." The flashes returned. The reporters stood up. Across the street, Marcus Caldwell grabbed his father's shoulder. "Tell them it's possible to reverse this." Gregory did not respond. Diana opened another document. "I also have sworn statements from 3 former employees in the group's information technology department. They confirm that Mr. Caldwell ordered the removal of my name from all documentation and the creation of new retroactive credentials that placed him as the sole author of the system." The press room erupted in murmurs. She raised her hand, asking for silence. But perhaps the most damning piece of evidence is this. One click, and then Gregory Caldwell's voice echoed through the loudspeakers. "Get rid of her. A chambermaid can't prove anything. Who would believe her?" The impact was devastating. Some reporters stood up, stunned. Others began broadcasting the audio in real time to social media. In the principal's office, Lauren slowly pushed the chair back. Warren Hayes took off his name tag and threw it on the table. Marcus looked at his father in disbelief, as if he were seeing a stranger. One of the advisors stood up, already on the phone with a lawyer. Meanwhile, Diana continued, unwavering. "I registered my patents even before presenting the project to the hotel. They are all here, officially recognized by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. These patents have been validated in international legal reviews." She designed the final document. "For years, I watched this company profit from my work. I saw Mr. Caldwell receive awards, open branches, expand globally, always using my code. The same code that was born from sleepless nights and hands that, one day, scrubbed marble floors." An absolute silence filled the room. Diana took a deep breath, staring at the crowd of cameras and microphones. Today, that story changes, not out of revenge, but because the truth, when it finally finds the light, has the power to restore dignity to all who were once treated as invisible. Outside, hundreds of people were applauding. Employees, former employees, and ordinary citizens. The same people who, for years, had been ignored by that now ruined empire. And for the first time, the name Diana Hartwell shone in the headlines, not as a victim, but as a living symbol of justice and the quiet courage that transforms the world. The cameras recorded Diana Hartwell's every word, while the Pinnacle Tower Hotel's ballroom remained in absolute silence. "I didn't speak out immediately," she began, her voice calm, "because I needed time. Time to document everything, to understand the exact extent of the corruption surrounding me, and to build a case that no one could refute." Across the street, in the lobby of the Sterling Grand Hotel, guests and staff crowded around televisions. Some recorded the reactions with their cell phones, others simply watched, motionless, as the empire began to crumble before everyone's eyes. "The theft of my intellectual property," Diana continued, her tone firmer, "wasn't limited to lines of code. It was a theft of dignity, an attempt to erase the value of those who dare to innovate without having the right surname, of those who believe that genius is not a privilege, it's courage. She picked up the last document from the folder. This is a cease and desist order effective immediately. From this moment on, the Caldwell Group is prohibited from using my Apex system. Any attempt to do so will result in direct legal action. In the Sterling Grand boardroom, Gregory Caldwell had loosened his tie completely. She was typing frantically on her cell phone, her face pale. Behind him, Marcus Caldwell paced back and forth, his expensive heels clattering angrily on the marble. Outside, reporters approached the hotel's revolving doors, shouting questions. Is Mr. Caldwell going to resign from his position? Does the Caldwell Group intend to return the Innovation Award? Is there evidence of corporate crime? Meanwhile, Diana remained firmly on the podium. I'm not seeking revenge, he declared. I'm seeking justice. Justice for all the workers whose ideas were stolen, whose voices were silenced, and whose achievements were erased by people who think that power means impunity. The hall erupted in applause. Flashes, cameras, voices, the truth finally had a face. Hours later, the atmosphere was quite different at the Chicago Club, one of the most exclusive circles of the city's elite. The club's former private dining room, with its mahogany paneling and heavy curtains, now resembled a war room. At the head of the table, Robert Caldwell, the patriarch, remained motionless. His impeccably grey hair and tailored suit gave him an almost aristocratic air. Beside him, Marcus Caldwell paced back and forth, checking his cell phone every second. This is a disaster, Dad, he hissed. The stocks have plummeted, the guests are fleeing, and that woman is destroying everything. Robert took a sip of bourbon, the sound of ice cubes clinking like a clock ticking. Calm down, Marcus. Hysteria solves nothing. He gestured with his hand. Sit down. We need to think with a cool head. The door slammed shut. Gregory Caldwell entered, his face covered in sweat, his shirt wrinkled. The lawyers confirmed it. The patents are legitimate. She got us. Robert didn't react. Sit down, Gregory. His tone was dry and cutting. Let's discuss how to contain the damage. The waiter entered discreetly, bringing fresh drinks. As soon as the door closed, Robert spoke in a low, calculated tone. The problem isn't the patents, nor the theft. It's the emotions. Marcus stared at him, confused. What do you mean? The real threat is the narrative. He set his glass down on the table. She's becoming a symbol, a people's heroine, the wronged maid who triumphed over the empire, and the public loves that kind of story. Gregory rubbed his face. And what can we do about it? She has proof. Evidence isn't everything. Robert opened his planner and started dialing on his cell phone. I have contacts in newsrooms, columnists, business magazines. Let's change the story. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes shining. Are you suggesting manipulating the press? Robert smiled coldly. I'm suggesting we tell a different story. Let's paint the whole picture. A resentful, obsessed, unbalanced former employee who waited years to get her revenge. Gregory shifted in his chair. But what about the evidence? The code? The records at the USPTO? Evidence loses its strength when doubt is planted in people's minds. Robert leaned back in his chair, relaxing. Let's suggest she falsified documents, that she manipulated the code, that she hired someone to forge dates. Marcus frowned. But what if the press investigates? They'll investigate whatever we let slip. Robert Caldwell's smile was icy. We'll hand over leaked information about her past. You fired her, right? Marcus nodded, almost proudly. Yes, she already had warnings on her record. She tried to access restricted areas, made unsolicited suggestions, and bothered guests with ideas outside of protocol. Robert wrote it down calmly. Perfect, he said, satisfied. Let's present this as a pattern of instability. The narrative will be simple: a resentful former chambermaid, consumed by an obsession for revenge. Gregory hesitated. What if she reacts publicly? Robert looked up, his voice thick with calculated coldness. Then we'll say it's yet another demonstration of his emotional instability. Silence hung heavy over the room. Outside, the lights of Chicago reflected in the windows, as if the city itself were witnessing the desperation of an empire trying to survive through manipulation. At the head of the table, Robert Caldwell raised his glass of bourbon and concluded with a cynical smile, "They have the truth. We have the power. Let's see which one lasts longer." The Caldwell brothers exchanged glances, hope slowly returning to their weary faces. "I have contacts at the Wall Street Journal," said Robert Caldwell, leaning back with a cold smile. "They love a good tech fraud story. Let's feed them the right information." He opened his leather notebook and began to write. "We'll need to explore multiple angles: emotional instability, professional jealousy, erratic behavior. We'll portray Diana Hartwell as a resentful former employee who spent years obsessed with getting revenge on the company that fired her." Marcus Caldwell adjusted his hair and smiled, remembering the day he humiliated Diana in the lobby. She seemed unbalanced. She refused to leave, causing a scene. "That will work in our favor." Robert nodded, satisfied. "Exactly. We'll use this video to our advantage. We'll say that she deliberately provoked the confrontation, staging everything to create viral content and promote herself." Gregory Caldwell swirled the glass of bourbon in his hands. "And what about those former technology sector employees? The ones who signed statements confirming the theft?" Robert laughed scornfully. "Disgruntled former employees, of course. We'll say they were bought off, that they're part of a coordinated attack." He paused and winked. "The public always believes whoever shouts the loudest." The waiter discreetly entered with chilled drinks. They waited for the man to leave before continuing. "I'll activate my media contacts tonight," Robert continued. "By tomorrow morning, the headlines will have changed. Unbalanced former housekeeper fabricates accusations. Mental instability raises doubts about allegations." He spoke with the precision of someone who had handled crises before. He turned to Gregory. "Prepare a statement. Say that you were shocked by the false accusations. Emphasize your history of innovation, awards, and impeccable reputation. Show indignation and humanity at the same time." Gregory took a deep breath, regaining some of his confidence. "I can do that." Robert then fixed his gaze on Marcus. "You need to appear remorseful. Show empathy. Say you regret the incident in the lobby, but that you acted to protect the guests. Make it seem like she was a threat, a woman out of control." Marcus tried a serious expression in front of the mirror in front of him. "I was scared. She seemed unstable, desperate." Robert raised his glass, satisfied. "Perfect. We fight fire with fire. She wanted to tell a story? Let's tell ours." In a louder voice. The three toasted, the sound of the crystal echoing like a dark pact. Outside, the Chicago wind rustled the heavy curtains of the Chicago club, but inside that room, the air was thick, heavy, and poisonous. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, in her modest apartment, Diana Hartwell's cell phone vibrated incessantly. The notifications arrived in sequence. "Former employee exhibits unstable behavior," sources say. "Doubts about the mental health of the person claiming against the software system. Executives shocked by false accusations." Diana read each headline in silence, without any trace of surprise. Her calmness was almost frightening. "So the rats finally decided to show their teeth," he muttered, setting his cell phone down on the table. The articles multiplied rapidly, each one more cruel than the last, disguising venom with jargon of respectable journalism. But Diana had already foreseen everything. In her makeshift office, surrounded by piles of documents, recordings, and testimonies, she opened her worn leather notebook, filled with 16 years of notes. Each page was a piece of the puzzle: evidence, dates, emails, recorded conversations, testimonies. "Time to show them what an unstable housekeeper is capable of," she muttered, picking up her cell phone. He dialed a known number. "Sharon, the time has come. Call the others." A short time later, his living room began to fill up. Familiar faces hardened by hard work: Sharon Williams, former head of governance; Thomas Rivera, a maintenance veteran; Patricia Moore, a housekeeper who worked at 3 different locations within the group; and other former colleagues. Diana looked at everyone, her voice firm and serene. "They think they can bury the truth, but there are many of us, and our stories are worth more than their lies." Sharon opened an old folder. "I have the emails," he said. "The ones where they told us to work without pay during board events." Thomas held up a USB drive. "I have recordings from the internal cameras. They show the times we were forced to use chemicals without protection, injuries, fainting spells, everything." Patricia placed a stack of photos and pay stubs on the table. Moldy accommodations, salary cuts, punishments for those who dared to complain. With each new revelation, Diana's anger mixed with determination. "They called us family," Patricia spat out the words. "Family doesn't treat anyone like that." Diana nodded and began typing. "And now the whole world will know." The apartment lights flickered on determined faces. Throughout the night, they worked side by side, organizing evidence, recording testimonies, reconstructing years of exploitation and abuse. It was more than just an answer. It was a silent revolution, born from tired hands that were once invisible. And when the sun rose over Lake Michigan, Diana Hartwell already held in her hands what no empire could erase: the truth, documented, filmed, and poised to set the entire world ablaze. At dawn, Diana Hartwell launched the counterattack. First came the emails. Thousands of internal communications from Hartwell Hospitality Group were anonymously leaked, exposing years of systemic discrimination and abuse. Messages from managers laughing at employees who didn't know their place. Human resources reports filed away to protect directors accused of harassment. Financial spreadsheets revealing millions embezzled in unpaid overtime. Soon after, the videos came along. Security footage shows injured workers being forced to continue their shifts. Recordings of internal meetings in which executives mocked low-level employees. One video in particular went viral. Gregory Caldwell, drunk, in the middle of the boardroom, mocking Diana's proposal. A maid with a computer program, only if it's to clean the system. His laughter echoed across social media. The phrase, uttered with disdain, became a symbol of all corporate arrogance, and the whole country heard. Within a few hours, the impact was devastating. Luxury hotel chain accused of systematic exploitation. Former employees denounce harassment and discrimination scheme. The headlines dominated the news. The hashtag #WhereJusticeForDiana quickly rose to the top of the trending topics. A few hours later, Workers with Diana became a national movement. News vans surrounded the Sterling Grand Hotel. Reporters were vying for testimonies with former employees. Every hour, new evidence emerged, new videos, new faces willing to speak. Sharon Williams appeared live on CNN, recounting how she was fired after reporting a manager for harassment. Thomas Rivera, in an interview with MSNBC, revealed that the company threatened to report workers to the police when they tried to demand safe working conditions. Social media exploded with solidarity. Workers from hotels, hospitals, and restaurants began sharing their own stories. Union leaders and influencers embraced the cause. Entire squares were filled with posters. Believe in black women. Workers deserve dignity. Their luxury cost us our blood. What started as a small protest in front of the hotel turned into a human ocean. Hundreds, then thousands of people took to the streets of Chicago. The employees' uniforms mingled with the banners raised under the morning sun. The sound of chants echoed between the marble buildings. Justice for Diana, justice for the workers. From the windows of the Sterling Grand, executives watched helplessly. The brand was collapsing, stocks are plummeting, mass cancellations of reservations. The Caldwell empire was crumbling, not because of competition, but because of the truth. Inside her apartment, Diana Hartwell watched the coverage surrounded by her former colleagues. Tears flowed freely, but it was emotion, not pain. "It's not about me anymore," she said, her voice breaking. "It's about all those who were invisible, about everyone who swallowed their pride to avoid losing their job, about all the dreamers who were told they were aiming too high." Sharon shook her hand. "You gave us a voice, Diana. For the first time, the country is listening." The sound of the crowd echoed through the TV. Outside, the Caldwell group was trying to contain the public relations fire. Robert Caldwell, normally calm, appeared on national television sweating under the camera lights. "We take these accusations very seriously," he stammered, trying to maintain a diplomatic tone. But her voice was lost beneath the chorus coming from the street. "Thieves, exploiters, justice." The following image showed Marcus Caldwell, looking downcast, being escorted to the car wearing sunglasses and with his face covered. Protesters were banging on windows, shouting slogans. Gregory Caldwell had not been seen for days. The pressure was mounting. Outside the hotel, hundreds of hotel industry employees arrived with their badges and uniforms, joining the protests. The ground on Michigan Avenue turned into a sea of raised fists, and it was there, in that same lobby where she had once been humiliated, that Diana Hartwell returned, no longer as an employee, but as the owner of her future. The mahogany doors of the council chamber swung open abruptly. Diana entered, flanked by a team of lawyers and security guards. The council members stood up, astonished. Robert Caldwell stood up from his chair. "This is a private meeting. Please leave immediately." Diana spoke without raising her voice. "Sit down, Robert, you'll want to hear this." Silence filled the room. Marcus, pale, lowered his eyes. Gregory, with his unshaven beard, looked like a defeated man. Diana's legal team began distributing folders. Each envelope a coup, each page an undeniable truth. "In just 3 days, your shares plummeted 60%, Diana said, calmly taking the chair at the head of the bed, the same one that had always belonged to the patriarch. "Your main investors are already withdrawing. And your system, my system, remains offline." Her gaze swept across the room. Not a word was spoken, but everyone understood. The Caldwell era was over. "We are dealing with the situation," said Robert Caldwell, trying to sound firm, but his voice trembled. "This meeting is to discuss emergency measures." "The emergency is over," Diana Hartwell interrupted, with the serenity of someone who has already won. She made a slight gesture to Dr. Vincent Thornton, her lead lawyer, who opened a brown leather folder on the marble table. "For the past 5 years," she began, "while you were stealing my work and destroying lives, I was building something bigger." The tension in the room could be felt in the air. Diana straightened her shoulders and continued. "A holding company, a discreet yet determined company, Hartwell Holdings." The murmuring ceased. Robert frowned. Gregory Caldwell dropped his pen, the metallic sound echoing through the room. "At 9 o'clock this morning," Diana continued, "my holding company completed the acquisition of 51% of the shares of the parent company of Hartwell Hospitality Group." Silence. Then chaos. The directors began to stand up, shouting about legal challenges, shareholder rights, impossible, illegal, unacceptable. Marcus Caldwell, livid, put his hand to his mouth. Robert slammed his fist on the table. That's absurd. The board would have been notified of any significant stock purchase. Dr. Vincent Thornton calmly opened the documents and pushed them to the center of the table. The acquisitions were made through shell companies, all legal and registered in accordance with SEC regulations. Ms. Hartwell is now the majority shareholder of the group. Gregory empalideceu. This cannot be acknowledged. Diana leaned forward slightly with a half-smile. Of course you can, and you will, but feel free to contest it in court. I'm sure the judges will love reading this. She placed another stack of papers on the table. Internal emails between Robert, Marcus and Gregory Caldwell detailing the smear campaign against her. Records of calls to sensationalist columnists, bank transfer receipts for journalists willing to publish lies. Robert stood up suddenly. These are private communications. Diana raised her gaze fixed. Nothing is private when corporate conspiracy is involved. She began to walk slowly around the table, touching the back of each chair, those same chairs that she had once cleaned as a chambermaid. You laughed at me, she said, her voice low but strong. You called me a dreamer. You said a woman like me should know her place. And when I presented the system that could revolutionize the hotel industry, you stole it and signed off on it as if it were the work of a genius. She stopped behind the chair of Robert, the patriarch. But he made a mistake. He thought that because I was quiet, I was weak. That because I cleaned rooms, I couldn't create something brilliant. That because I didn't react immediately, I would never react. Robert was breathing with difficulty. The other directors stared at him in shock. Marcus lowered his gaze, defeated. Robert, one of them asked hesitantly, is that true? Before the old patriarch could respond, Dr. Vincent Thornton projected the court-obtained emails onto the screen. In clear letters, maintain control of the group. If Diana Hartwell speaks, we all fall. Another showed a direct order. Plant doubts about her mental state. Make her seem unstable. The images changed one by one, each piece of evidence more devastating than the last. It was the public collapse of decades of corruption. Robert Caldwell jumped up abruptly, knocking over his chair. You've been plotting this for years, Diana responded calmly. Watch your words, Robert. That's no way to address your new CEO. The silence that followed was sepulchral. Not even the lawyers dared to move. Effective immediately, Diana announced. I am taking control of all operations of the Hartwell Hospitality Group. Robert, Gregory, and Marcus Caldwell are suspended from their positions pending the conclusion of the investigation into corporate fraud, discrimination, and conspiracy. The door to the room opened. The Hartwell security team entered, dressed in black, their metallic name tags gleaming in the sunlight streaming through the panoramic windows. Marcus Caldwell took a step back, trembling. You can't do this to me. Do you know who I am? Diana gave a half-smile. I know exactly who you are. I've seen you humiliate employees for pleasure. I've seen you abuse your power just to feel important. And yes, she looked him straight in the eye, I felt your hand on my face a week ago. There was total silence. Marcus turned pale. The difference, Diana continued, is that I'm not going to retaliate. She paused. I'm going to do something much worse. What? He whispered, breathless. I'm going to make you irrelevant. Security escorted them to the door. Before leaving, Robert turned one last time, his face purple with anger. Gregory bent over, Marcus trembling. Diana Hartwell remained standing at the head of the table, the late morning sun illuminating her silhouette. You're not in charge here anymore, she said slowly. I am. The mahogany doors slammed shut with a dry click, and the silence that remained was the sound of an empire falling. The remaining members of the Hartwell Hospitality Group board stared at their folders without saying a word, avoiding any eye contact with each other, and especially with the new CEO. The air in the room was heavy, almost palpable. The distant sound of the air conditioner was the only thing that broke the silence. Diana Hartwell sat calmly at the head of the table, adjusting her dark grey blazer with the precision of someone who is in complete control of their own space. Her serene expression contrasted sharply with the chaos that had preceded her. "Now," she said, opening the laptop in front of her, "let's discuss the future of this company." The most senior director, Dr. Benjamin Foster, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Hartwell, regarding the Caldwell brothers and Mr. Robert, I presume you would like the termination papers processed immediately." "Not exactly," Diana replied, typing something quickly. The main screen in the room lit up, displaying a new digital organizational chart, gleaming and merciless. "Robert and Gregory Caldwell will face legal consequences," she continued firmly. "The evidence of fraud and discrimination has already been handed over to the SEC and the Department of Justice." A murmur spread across the table. Some directors exchanged nervous glances, probably wondering if they too would be implicated. "As for Marcus Caldwell's case," Diana said, crossing her hands, "I have something different in mind." Samantha Blake, the director of operations, leaned forward. "The lady doesn't intend to keep him at the company after what happened. The slap he gave her alone would justify dismissal for cause." Diana lightly touched her cheek, a discreet gesture but full of meaning. "That slap taught me something," he said slowly. "Marcus Caldwell isn't just cruel, he's ignorant, and ignorance is fought with education." She clicked on another file. On the screen, Marcus's new position appeared highlighted in stark letters: Guest Experience Assistant, Sterling Grand Hotel. The murmurs erupted again. "That's a huge demotion," commented Dr. Benjamin Foster, surprised. "No," Diana corrected, her voice calm but sharp. "It's an opportunity." She stood up and began to walk around the room. "For 6 months, Marcus will undergo intensive training: empathy, active listening, diversity, inclusion, anti-discrimination practices, and real-world customer service experience. He will deal with guests, resolve complaints, and carry luggage if necessary." Samantha shook her head in disbelief. "He'll never accept that. He'll resign first." Diana smiled discreetly and displayed another document. "He can't resign. The plea agreement with the Department of Justice requires him to complete the Humanize Caldwell program or face charges as an accomplice to his brother's fraud. He chose his own fate when he participated in the smear campaign against me." The council remained silent. The brilliance of Diana Hartwell's strategy was beginning to reveal itself. She approached the panoramic window. Down below, the Sterling Grand Hotel glittered in the midday sun. It was in that same lobby, visible from there, that she had been humiliated weeks before. Now, from there, she was rewriting history. "This company has forgotten what hospitality means," she said, turning to the group. "True luxury isn't about making the guest feel superior. It's about making everyone feel valued, from the bellhop to the guest in the presidential suite." She designed a new slide sequence, the Hartwell 2026 restructuring. Starting today. 1. All executive bonuses will be tied to employee satisfaction and retention, not just profit. 2. We will create a national professional development program for all employees, from cleaning to maintenance. 3. Each department will have employee representatives participating in management decisions. Kyle Anderson, the finance director, looked up, uncertain. "Mrs. Hartwell, all of this will be very expensive." Diana maintained a calm tone, but the conviction in her voice made the room bow in silence. "No, Kyle, this will be an investment. I created $1 billion system because I knew what the guests and employees really needed. Imagine what else we're wasting, because we're too arrogant to listen to the people who actually work." The sentence hung in the air. Some directors lowered their eyes. Others nodded slowly. "And what about the repercussions of keeping Marcus Caldwell on the team?" asked Benjamin Foster. Diana took a deep breath. "We will tell the truth. That Hartwell Hospitality Group is choosing transformation over revenge. That we believe in re-education, empathy, and second chances." She paused and looked at each face around the table. "And sometimes, the person who most needs to learn is the one who believes they have nothing left to learn." A brief silence filled the room, broken only by the vibrant sound of Diana's cell phone. She unlocked it. A message from Human Resources flashed on the screen. "Contract signed. Marcus Caldwell will begin his new role tomorrow at 7 a.m. with initial training in the Humanized Caldwell program." Diana Hartwell looked up, observing the same faces that years before had ignored her ideas. This time, everyone listened to her in silence. And she knew this was not the end, it was the beginning of everything. Diana Hartwell faced the council with a calmness that commanded respect. "Robert and Gregory Caldwell chose fraud and theft to maintain power," she said firmly, "and for that, they will face justice." She paused briefly, but Marcus Caldwell's crime was pride. The kind of pride that makes someone believe they can measure a person's worth by the clothes they wear, the position they hold, or the color of their skin. His tone was calm, but there was something sharp about his words. "So let him learn what it means to serve. Let him feel the weight of being judged by every guest who walks through that door. And perhaps, just perhaps, he will discover what I learned many years ago. That true dignity is born from uplifting others, not from belittling them." The silence that followed was dense. The council members one by one nodded slowly, recognizing the wisdom behind the decision. Diana pressed a button on her laptop, and the screen lit up with a new logo, modern, vibrant, full of meaning. "This empire will be rebuilt," she declared, "not with arrogance, but with dignity." The great hall of Sterling Grand. That night, the grand ballroom of the Sterling Grand Hotel was buzzing with anticipation. Hundreds of journalists, tourism executives, and employees packed the space. Beneath the glittering crystal chandeliers, the air was filled with hope and with something unprecedented: respect. In the background, a group of chambermaids, waiters, and maintenance technicians gathered, still in their uniforms. They had come straight from their shifts to witness the promise of a new era. Among them, Sharon Williams, her hands trembling and her eyes filled with emotion, whispered to her colleague beside her, "Do you believe we're really here, Derek?" Derek Johnson, the veteran maintenance worker, smiled with tears in his eyes. "She made us visible, Sharon, for the first time." The lights dimmed. The murmur turned to silence. Diana Hartwell appeared on stage. A simple blazer, flat shoes, a serene expression. The contrast with the luxurious suits of the front row was not weakness, it was quiet power. She approached the pulpit and looked around, taking in each face. When she began to speak, her voice carried the calmness of someone who had already lived through chaos and survived it. 20 years ago, I was in this hall too," he said, "but not on this stage. I was behind a cleaning cart, scrubbing champagne stains off the carpet at 3 in the morning." The room became completely quiet. Sharon discreetly wiped away a tear. "Back then, I learned something no MBA can teach," Diana continued. "True hospitality isn't in the marble columns or the 1,000 thread count sheets. It's in the hands that wash those sheets, that mop that floor, that make every detail exist." She pointed to the back of the room. "These people," he said firmly, "are the true architects of comfort, the engineers of experience. They used to call us the backstage crew. Well, today the backstage crew becomes the center." The audience held their breath. With a slight nod, Diana activated the screen behind her. The title appeared in gold lettering, "Front Door Project." Images began to circulate. Training centers, classrooms, computers, young people in uniform studying. Today, I'm announcing a national initiative that will transform the hospitality industry, Diana declared. The Front Door Project will create real pathways for workers to become managers, entrepreneurs, and leaders. The images advanced. Educational hubs, partnerships with universities, technology and management modules. Each employee will have access to full scholarships, with salaries maintained, he continued. But this isn't just about education, it's about property. The lights dimmed, and Diana's tone became solemn. The project will also provide microcredit and mentorship to those who want to start their own business, and each participant will receive shares in the group, becoming a co-owner of the future they helped build. A murmur of astonishment swept through the hall. Journalists typed frantically, executives exchanged incredulous glances. And to ensure the start of this dream, Diana concluded, I am allocating $500 million of my personal fortune as an initial investment. The hall erupted in applause. Cameras went off. Some reporters even went so far as to confirm the value in real time, skeptical of the figures. Diana waited for the excitement to subside. The first center will open next month right here, he announced, on the executive floor where I was once told I didn't belong. The audience applauded again, standing. We are transforming the old boardroom into a leadership school. Sharon was sobbing at the back of the room while Derek hugged her proudly. Other employees joined in the tears and smiles. Diana looked at them. This project isn't just about opportunity, it's about recognition. Behind her, a curtain opened, revealing a huge bronze plaque with the title Pioneers Mural. Hundreds of names engraved, chambermaids, waiters, cooks, technicians. Some of them were from people who had already passed away, but whose contribution would now be eternal. I see tears, Diana said softly. I cried too, years ago, when they told me to use the back entrance, when they laughed at me for dreaming big, when I was slapped for refusing to be invisible. She leaned over the pulpit. But today, those tears have watered the seeds of change. Her voice rose, powerful. Today we turn the page. Today we transform the back hallway into the front door. She reached out her hand toward the back of the hall. My former colleagues, please stand up. Sharon, Derek, and dozens of others rose to their feet, trembling to a standing ovation. It was the end of shame and the beginning of justice. The crowd turned to look at them, to really look at them, perhaps for the first time. Diana Hartwell smiled with restrained emotion. These people taught me everything I know about excellence, she said, her voice firm but choked with emotion. Sharon Williams showed me how to transform chaos into order. Derek Johnson taught me that everything that is broken can be fixed with patience and the right tools. They are the true masters of practical wisdom, and now they will help lead this revolution. She raised her hand, inviting them to the stage. The group moved slowly through the parting crowd, their rubber shoes producing soft footsteps on the gleaming marble floor. When they arrived, Diana stepped down a step and embraced them one by one, tears streaming freely amidst the flashes of the cameras. The first class of the Front Door Project, she announced proudly, will be taught by these experts. Because true hospitality isn't learned only from books, it's learned from those who have lived every detail. The room erupted in applause. Journalists jostled to capture the moment. But Diana wasn't finished yet. For too long, we were the invisible hands, she said, her voice echoing among the crystal chandeliers. Now, we are the architects. The workers beside her straightened their posture. The pride on their faces lit up the room. In the front row, former executives of the group shifted uncomfortably, seeing their own prejudices reflected in the tears streaming down Sharon's face. Diana looked up, her gaze firm. The service room has always been the backbone of this industry. Now it will also be your future. Marcus Caldwell's designer heels clicked hurriedly through the lobby of the Sterling Grand Hotel, the same hotel he had once commanded with disdain. Now that space felt like a prison. He held a stack of clean towels, heading toward room 237. A guest had complained about a coffee stain. His nails, once impeccable and used for pointing out flaws, now held bottles of cleaning products. "Mr. Caldwell." The gruff voice of Mr. Richard Bennett, a long-time and demanding guest, cut through the air. "There's a problem with my dinner order." Marcus took a deep breath and forced a smile. "I'll resolve it immediately, sir." The words sounded heavy, as if swallowing his own pride. He remembered how many times he had mistreated chambermaids and waiters for delays. Now he understood the impossible dance of someone who needs to solve the impossible with a smile. The service elevator, the one he had never used before, took him to the kitchen. The employees avoided his gaze. They remembered well who he had been. "Order 512 is wrong," he said, trying to maintain a neutral tone. "You ordered the steak rare." The supervisor replied without raising his eyes. 20 minutes. 20 minutes echoed like a sentence. In the past, he would have shouted. Now, he would have to face the guest and bear the weight of the mistake alone. In the lobby, a child spilled orange juice on the marble. Marcus grabbed the mop and knelt down to clean it, feeling the heat rise to his face as the guests watched him. "Sir," said an elderly woman, "the ice machine on the 4th floor isn't working." "I'll check it right away, ma'am." His feet ached, his back burned. The clock showed 6 hours on his feet. When he looked up, he saw Diana Hartwell standing before him, silently watching him. The world seemed to freeze. Marcus swallowed hard. "Mrs. Hartwell," he managed to say, almost in a whisper. Diana just watched him finish cleaning. Then she followed him to the supply cupboard. "The ice machine on the 4th floor is broken," he said, avoiding eye contact with her. "I know," Diana replied softly. 3 guests have already reported it. How long have you been up today?" Marcus hesitated. "Since 7 in the morning." "And how many complaints have you dealt with?" 17 so far." Diana nodded. "The same burden I carried for 16 years. The difference is that now you understand." The words hit him like another slap, only this time it came from the truth. Marcus lowered his gaze. I didn't know." "That's always been the problem," Diana replied. "You never tried to find out." A guest approached, impatient. "Excuse me, I've been waiting to check in for 5 minutes." Diana made a slight gesture. "Go, Marcus. The guests are waiting." He rushed to the reception desk, his body exhausted, his pride wounded, but his spirit at last awakened. As he apologized to the irritated guest, he felt Diana's gaze in the distance. This time, there was no resentment, only recognition. Months later, the Sterling Grand Hotel was packed again, but the audience was different. There were former employees, journalists, and social leaders. In the center of the lobby, a red velvet curtain concealed the new masterpiece, the sculpture, the hands that build. Diana Hartwell stepped onto the small platform, wearing a simple beige overcoat. "This hotel," she began, "was built by invisible hands, by people who worked in the shadows while others slept." She paused. "Today, we walk towards the light." She pulled back the curtain. The sculpture revealed itself to be immense and powerful. A woman in a simple uniform, holding architectural blueprints in her hands and raising her gaze upwards. At the base, it read, "Dedicated to all those who built luxury with their own hands." Sharon Williams wept, embracing Derek Johnson and Patricia Moore. There were their faces, immortalized. Applause echoed off the walls. Diana descended from the stage and walked among her colleagues, embracing each one. They were the same ones who had helped her survive, who had shared their coffee, who had believed in her when no one else did. "Remember when we studied hidden in the supply closet?" Patricia whispered. "I remember," Diana replied, smiling. "That's where it all began." In the Sterling panoramic elevator, Diana ascended calmly. No one stopped her. On the top floor, the former presidential suite had been transformed into her office. Where there had once been ostentation, there were now photographs of the workers who had built that empire. Her daughter, Maya, twirled happily in front of the window. "Mommy, you can see the whole city from here." Diana hugged her. "Come here, my love. This is the view of someone who dreamed without giving up." On the desk lay her old employee badge, and beside it the Hartwell Hospitality Group's Charter of Values, which began with the words, "Every worker, from the chambermaid to the executive, deserves dignity, respect, and a path to growth." Down in the lobby, crowds took photos with the sculpture. Children pointed to their parents' names engraved on the base. Diana gazed at the horizon. Chicago's cranes were raising new hotels, but now they were also raising a new world. She ran her fingers over the wood of her desk, so different from the handles of the mops she once used, and murmured to herself, "We don't just enter through the front door anymore, we design the building." This story is a powerful reminder that a person's worth should never be measured by the uniform they wear, the position they hold, or where they come from. Diana Hartwell started out cleaning rooms and ended up rebuilding an entire industry, proving that dignity, when coupled with courage and perseverance, can topple any empire of arrogance. How many times in the rush of daily life do we pass by people who silently sustain the world? The doorman who greets us, the chambermaid who leaves the room spotless, the waiter who serves us with a tired smile. Each of them carries a story, a struggle, and a dream. And it is precisely in the hands of these invisible people that true luxury rests, that of humanity. If this story touched you, tell us in the comments which city or country you're watching from. We want to know how far this message has reached. Take this opportunity to leave a like, because it really helps the channel continue bringing you stories that inspire, move, and make you think. And if you're not already subscribed, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because tomorrow there's another story of overcoming adversity and justice that you won't want to miss.